we could be seeing a recession in 2027 pretty easily.
Yeah, and there's also an institutional angle, though, because the banks do decide who they lend to. And there's not we saw Blackstone was getting into housing. We have a lot of build-to-rent communities. We have a lot of investors that want to buy single-family properties that have large portfolios. And the banks can start to favor, some of that if they perceive that as less risk than a standard single-family borrower.
Yeah, correct. I think the big difference there, of course, is if you want to buy personally a home, they're pulling your credit, they're pulling your score, they're looking at you, they're looking at your debt to income for you as a standalone individual. Can you pay this or not? When you buy an office building, you look at the credit of the tenants actually leasing the individual floors on the office building. You dig into those kinds of things. You start to look at how long have they been in business? What are their balance sheets? How long is the lease? What are their rents? Are the rents going up or down? What's the occupancy? What's the vacancy? What's the expenses? All that kind of stuff. Same thing with multi. So the question would be, if you're going to lend in a particular market, and the market is 2, 3, 4 months free, which certainly it exists around the country, where you see a lot of supply hitting certain markets, the lender is going to look at the market as it affects occupancy, as it affects concessions, as it affects expenses. So it's looking at something very differently. But you're looking at I would say the collective credit of the people occupying that center, like a regional shopping center that is anchored by let's say a very, very big food chain. Is going to probably do really well. They'll look at that, and then they'll look at all the small things next to it. The karate studio, the water and ice place, the massage place, all those kinds of things all survive and exist based on the people coming and going from that big store. So each thing's looked at a little bit differently. So if I'm a lender, I'm looking at the strength of the credit of the tenants that are existing there and how long they have left. And so it's a little bit different than looking at somebody individually.
Plus, though, even as a small investor with the DSCR loans, they're really just looking at how much you're putting down in the loan versus how much the rent is, So that's simple too, right? That's easier math as well. Like they're just looking at rent and loan amount.
That's why the debt to income thing is so interesting because like if you're displaced by AI and you're having a heck of a time trying to find a position, then there is really no income. Maybe you've got some unemployment income or something. Hopefully you do to kind of stopgap some of that. But they're not really looking at your savings. They're not going to lend to you based on your savings, even though you might have a lot of savings. They want to make sure that there's some kind of consistent income coming in. It's the same way on a commercial office building or a commercial shopping center, like I just said, or a multi. They look at the strength of the people that are actually paying the rent. In that particular case. In this particular case, it's the strength of the individual that has a job, a W-2, the consistency, all of that kind of stuff. So mark my words, these lenders are going to be looking at, is your job replaceable, right? Like, are you a paralegal? Nothing against paralegals, but my friend, I have plenty of friends that are attorneys, have said, paralegals are starting to be replaced, a lot of them with AI. So so obviously that's a market that's been affected. A lot of the admins, even though I wouldn't consider that necessarily admin, will and continue to be replaced by AI for sure. So now let's take a look at where AI is going to affect the individual cities, because I think this is really interesting. I think it's like a vacancy rate across the U.S., right? AI is going to affect different cities differently, right? So you would expect that. So what this chart, which I thought was really, really interesting, and this is available, it's a combination of Goldman where they did with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But what you see here is this is why San Jose is all the way over on the left, which I thought was really, really interesting. And this at the bottom is AI worker risk. And of course, you've got at the top the strongest rental shift. And the national average is about 9%. So what you see here, these are considered mostly, I guess, admin, right? And what it's going to do is that people are going to keep moving in, but fewer can qualify for mortgages, and I think that's actually what's going to happen there. And so you're going to have less buyers as a result of, obviously, these job shifts. So I thought this was a really, really interesting, because I think a lot of times we always think that, AI is going to affect Phoenix the same way as it's going to affect San Francisco or Miami. And it's just not the case. I think you got to drill down even more. So if you're investing, or you're a landlord in these areas, or you're looking to invest in those areas, these kinds of statistics, and they will change, and each study will be a little bit differently, because I think, as Daniil said, there are some people that think this is going to be quicker, and some people that think this is going to be quite longer. I personally think it's actually moving quite fast.